So if you imagine building materials, of course, there are people who live in caves. That's brilliant. You don't need plants for that. It keeps you out of the elements. But just about every other traditional building method contains plant materials. Even houses made out of stone have wooden poles to keep the roof up, whatever the material for the roof may be. If it's slate, or sometimes in Great Britain there's huge slabs of stone they put on the roofs. It must weigh a ton, and then some. But even cob houses have got plant materials mixed into the clay. Of course, there are houses that are completely made out of plant materials, like log cabins and the floating houses made out of reeds. But being able to create a shelter in a place where there wasn't a shelter before is absolutely amazing, and most often you need plant materials to do so. It keeps predators out, it regulates the climate a bit, and human civilizations can create settlements and focus on other things than finding natural shelter. So being able to create a shelter, create a house, is amazing, and basically you need plant material for that. But over time, we've started to create houses out of other things. So bricks, which is still a natural material, that doesn't contain plants. There's all this artificial foam board that you use for insulation. That's definitely not a natural material, but it insulates the house really well. Steel frames to keep the houses up instead of wood. For all those things where we've gone away from plant material, quite often we've gone away from natural material as well. The other day I saw a YouTube video about a man who had a patch of rye, and he would use the straw to thatch his roof. And every year he would add more to his roof. The good thing about it is that when it's done its thing, you can put it on a compost heap and it goes back into the earth. Whilst if you've got foam boards, you can't do that. You can't reuse that. You can't compost that. It will kind of live forever, yet not always in a usable form. Whilst stone, like stone houses, that kind of lives forever as well. But if you take down a stone house, you can use the stone for something else. So looking back in the olden days, being able to create settlements where there weren't settlements before is amazing. You used plant materials for that, even if it's to hold up the main structure, like oak frame buildings, which there's still quite a lot about in Great Britain, where you get the nice black and white houses. You know, those beams are made out of plant materials. When you go away from those traditional ways of building houses or structures in general, you gain speed, because it's easier to lay bricks than it is to lay stones. And I'm sure there are some bricklayers around there who say, well, it's not that easy to lay bricks. Well, compared to laying stones, it is, because bricks are uniform and level and nice, and they've got nice square edges, and it's relatively easy to lay bricks. Of course, it is a skill within itself. Having said that, laying stones, it takes way more time and adds a degree of difficulty to the process. So what we gain in speed, we lose in craftsmanship and self-sufficiency, because being able to create buildings out of the materials around you, yes, you need tools, but being able to do that, to create houses out of stone or out of wood, it's got a degree of self-sufficiency in it. You don't depend on big corporations who create artificial insulation, who create composite materials that are maybe much easier to work with and have got their own properties. You lose something in the process. You gain something, you lose something, and you have to be realistic about that. And I think for many years that debate hasn't been had, that thought process only stopped at the advantages, not at the disadvantages. Not that I'm saying that everyone needs to live in a house made out of natural materials. It's just one of those things.